Did somebody ask for Hoyas? Alright, y'all sent out the Hoya signal. I saw the Hoya symbol floating in the sky. You put out the light. I heard your cries. You want a Hoya tour. You want to see all the Hoyas I got. Well, I'm going to show you. I've had a lot of people ask me for a Hoya tour, and I hope you're not too disappointed because I know that it seems like I've had Hoyas since eternity. Like I've had Hoyas since the day I was born. Like I came out of my mother's womb with a Hoya in my hands. Not the case. I have really only acquired most of my Hoyas as cuttings in the last 6 to 9 months. So they haven't grown tremendously. I really only have a handful of mature Hoyas, but some of you really just want to see updates on the Hoyas that I bought, I think like 9 months ago from a UK eBay seller, and the Hoyas that I brought back from Stockholm, from my adventures in Stockholm, meeting the Hoya Swedish Association. And then I have a few Hoyas that I received in the mail from Camilla and Ylva, two very wonderful Swedish women. So if you want to see updates on that, let's do it. Over here against this wall in my living room, which you don't normally see, is where I keep most of my Hoyas. I mean, I have some plants over here, and some plants over here, and some plants over here, and it's just plants everywhere. But this is where I keep most of my Hoyas because they're little cuttings that I can keep on shelves. I've had these shelves since I was in Paris, and I lived in a really tiny apartment, and I was desperate for more shelf space, so I built these shelves and painted them, and now I'm like, I don't really like these very much, so I would like to eventually replace this with some nice shelving units, but I haven't found any that appeal to me yet. Over here I have not Hoyas. I've got like begonias and coleus and pothos and joy and prayer plants and stuff, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about my Hoyas today. So on this one I have nothing but Hoyas. On this one I have a mixture, but mostly Hoya cuttings. And let me take you on into the first shelf. Over here I have Hoya breviolata. I actually purchased this as a much larger and fuller plant from Replant back in December of 2018. It's now August of 2019, so about 9 months ago. But unfortunately the medium that it arrived in was not really ideal for this plant, so it developed root rot really quickly, and I had to repot it, and I didn't do it soon enough, so I lost a lot of the roots, and I had to kind of butcher it and create a bunch of cuttings. So you're probably gonna see some other cuttings of like breviolata bits on these shelves, and I'll either, you know, give those to friends or you know, keep them and eventually put them back in the same pot to create a bigger breviolata again. Here I have Hoya lobii. I got this from my Hoya haul from a UK eBay vendor back in, I believe, November of 2018. So it's been, what is that, 9 or 10 months? And it arrived just as two little, like a little cutting with just these two leaves here. And I put it under a grow light and in like a terrarium box. I have a DIY propagation box. You can go check that out. I put it in that box for like a couple months, but all of this growth has really just come out in the last 3 months or so, especially since moving here to Lille. They really like my new apartment, so it's doing really well, as you can see. And in fact, I have another Hoya lobii here that was sent to me by Camilla, the chairwoman of the Swedish Hoya Society, and Ylva, the very, very kind Swedish lady, who really, really wanted to send me a Hoya species Borneo Gunungating because she saw my Stockholm Hoya haul and she saw that I wanted it, but I didn't get it. So they also sent me this lobii. I lost a lot of Hoyas in that haul. Like, they tried to send me so many Hoyas, and it was when the temperature got warm again, and then suddenly the temperature dropped and the shipping got held up for like 2 weeks because of demonstrations or something, and I lost a lot of the Hoyas from that haul, but this lobii made it. Here I have Hoya shuka, another one that I bought from the eBay vendor when I got this lobii and a bunch of others from my Hoya haul. This one's putting in a lot of new growth lately. It's doing pretty well. It's a happy little Hoya shuka. Back there I just have an epiphyllum, so I'm not going to show you that. This is all about my Hoyas, right? We're talking about Hoyas today. On this shelf I have a little Hoya carry-eye heart, and I keep this as an example to people that you shouldn't buy carry-eye hearts if you want a carry-eye plant, because with Hoyas you can't propagate the plant using just a leaf. You really need some bit of stem from the actual plant in order for it to grow more stem and to grow more plant. But with these carrii hearts, it's normally just one leaf that they plucked off the plant, and it will grow roots and it will develop a root system, and the leaf will always stay alive, but it will never grow into a full plant. There's like a very, very small chance that yours will grow into a full plant, and it's if you're super lucky, and like there are like cells from the actual stem on your Hoya carrii heart, but like the chances of that happening are so minimal. So I keep it, I mean, it's cute, it's like a little heart, but for me personally, actually, I don't really like Hoya carrii. It is not one of my preferred Hoyas, and that is why I don't have one. I just don't really, I don't find the leaves very appealing. I think they're big and thick and what, like I don't know. It looks like a fake plant to me. I'm not into it. And this is a cutting from my Hoya Bella and another cutting from my Hoya Bella. I'll show you the mother plant, so I'm not gonna get into those. Here I have another Hoya Breviolata, because like I said, I had to butcher mine to bits. I have a Hoya Memoria here, and I'll show you the mother plant. But this is basically the same thing happened with my Hoya Memoria. I bought it at a garden center 6 months ago or so, and the pot was super overcrowded with cuttings, so it was like kind of strangling itself to death. So I cut it to bits and made a bunch of cuttings from my Hoya Memoria. Back here I have a Hoya Obovata that was given to me by Brogelbun, this really awesome Scottish chick. I met her on Instagram, and she came to the Paris Plant Meet 2018. I met her and her husband. They're really nice people. I had a great time with them, and she was kind enough to bring me this beautiful Obovata cutting, and I'm really happy to have it because my Hoya Obovata is one funky mutant. I'll show it to you in a little bit. It doesn't look like this, that's for freaking sure. On this shelf I have my Trellis Hoyas, which I'll show you in a moment, and my begonia is like, could you not, begonia? Like, you're in the way. This is Hoya Bertonia, or I don't know, it was sold as Hoya Bertonia, but it could be, you know, Hoya species affinity Bertonia. It's like a bit confusing, nobody really knows. This, however, is a slow growing plant. Oh my god, I can't believe how slow this plant grows. It's just in the last like 3 months that it has finally put out this vine. I just really want to see this turn into a freaking plant, and it started as 3 leaves when I got it as a cutting, and it's only put out these 2 leaves and this one in the last 10 months. It is in no hurry to turn into a big plant, that's for sure. This is Hoya serpens, and I really wish I could say that this plant was doing better. I love this plant. I think it is absolutely adorable with its little pubescent leaves. Pubescent means that they're kind of fuzzy, and it's got little speckles on the leaves. It's a really, really pretty plant, but for some reason, it just keeps croaking. Like, the vines get about this long, and then as you can see, they die off, and I just can't stop it from doing this. And I think part of it is that it's summer. I moved into a new apartment. I don't have air conditioning, which is normal for France. A lot of people are confused by that because a lot of my audience, you're Americans and you all have air conditioning, but we just don't really do air conditioning as severely here. So I don't have air conditioning in my apartment. I don't need it. We've had 2 heat waves, but they're really brief, and I have to keep my windows and my terrace door open during those times. And basically it just sucks all the humidity out of my apartment. It's really hard to maintain humidity, and I think that that's causing this one to suffer pretty badly. Here I have Hoya crassipetulata. This might be my favorite Hoya ever. I love this. I got this in Stockholm back in March as a cutting. It's put out all that, like this new growth, this new leaf. It's a really fast grower. Like, it grows as fast as Pubicalyx, I would say. And it obviously needs a trellis really soon. It needs something to climb onto because it's gonna start vining. I think the leaves are absolutely lovely. It's a wonderful plant. It was published in 2017. It was found in Vietnam, so it's rather new to the Hoya circuit, if you will. And yeah, I'm really happy to have it. It's just lovely. Over here I just have another Hoya Memoria cutting. I won't bore you with that. Let me show you my trellis Hoyas. So I recently made my Hoya trellising video, and I quickly discovered afterwards that I could add trellises onto the trellises because that's the design of the trellis. I didn't realize that when I bought it because I'm an adult. But yeah, you can see I've added new trellises. So the Pubicalyx is another one that I purchased from that eBay vendor back in November. It was just 1 or 2, maybe 3 leaves, and it has just exploded with growth. It has all this new growth. It's vining like crazy. It's an incredibly fast growing Hoya, so if you want one that's gonna be really rewarding in terms of fast growth, Hoya pubiculax is good. This is Hoya Deikii. You know, this is one of my favorite types of Hoya. I always fall in love with leaves that are really bright green with really dark green veins inside. It has this spotting on the leaf, and to be honest, I can't really say what that is. I don't know if those are mineral deposits or what, but it seems to be completely harmless. And in fact, I think it makes the leaf look even more beautiful because it's this really pretty peachy color. It has this one big leaf up here. Over here I have Hoya fungii, and you can see it has this really long vine that's just going every which way. Look how big these leaves are. They're huge. They're like the size of my hand. It's a really marvelous plant, and I just discovered that the backs of the leaves, because I don't usually touch my plants too much, I'm not a leaf stroker, I just discovered that the backs of the leaves are like pubescent. They're like fuzzy, which is kind of cool. And now I'm trying to like resist touching it because it feels like a little kitten. It's so cute. That's another really fast growing Hoya. It produces these huge leaves really quickly. And I would compare its care to like Hoya carnosa. It's doing pretty well in the humidity levels that I have. It's like 55% humidity in here. And it hasn't suffered a bit. It hasn't shown any signs of leaf browning or crisping or anything like that. Up on the shelf, you see I have my super funky hobovata. I just said hobovata, like my homeless obovata. It is just real weird looking. I bought it from an eBay vendor. I will obviously never buy anything from her again. The pictures were not very clear, and I did not know that I was getting something that looked so totally, absolutely funky, dunky, weird. It's a strange duck, this one. I can't really say what caused this to happen to the leaves. It could have been over-fertilization. It could have been a pest problem that she treated before she sent this cutting to me. I'm pretty sure I bought it last October or November, so like 10 months ago. There was a point when it did have a leaf here, and I was really excited about that, and then suddenly the leaf disappeared. I don't even know where that leaf went. I was on my hands and knees crawling all over the floor trying to figure out where did the leaf go, and I never found it, so that's a mystery to me. I'm actually beginning to wonder if I imagined that it ever happened. I don't know. I have Hoya obscura. Well, that's a cool one. I bought this from the, it's a little dusty, I need to dust my plants today. I bought this from the eBay vendor when I got the Hoya shuka and the lobii and the pubiculax and all that. You can see this one's growing really quickly. In the last 3 months it's put out all these new leaves. You can see there's a funky one in here. That's because when the leaf was really tiny and still developing, I accidentally cut it, and so it just continued to grow, and it grew in a weird shape. And I've seen that happen to other people's Hoyas, and that's generally why it happens. It's because you fiddled with your plant when the leaves were tiny and developing, and you made it all funky. You probably did it yourself. Stop touching your plants so much. Don't touch the baby leaves. This is Hoya species Affinity Lei. I also bought this from the eBay vendor from the UK. This is also another impossibly slow growing plant. I can't believe how slow it's growing. And like when I first got it, it started to put out this leaf. That turned into like a weird button-shaped leaf. I don't even know what that's about because that's obviously not the shape of the leaves. Just in the last 3 months, it's put out this. And that's like all the growth I've seen. It's really, it's a slow grower. Hoya meredithii, also known as Hoya vitellinoides. Christina Burton, the American botanist who published P.S. the Hoyan, believed that that was the same plant, and I care to agree. I bought this in Stockholm. There's finally a tiny green sign of life coming out of this plant. I've waited very patiently because this is one of my favorite Hoyas of all time. I think its leaves are huge and beautiful. It's glorious, and I just really want it to grow so badly. Back here I have Hoya Jennifer. I had never seen this one before really, and it was pointed out to me by Camilla when I went to Stockholm and was rifling through all the bags of Hoyas, deciding which ones to take home without spending a million freaking euros. It had I think it had these 3 leaves on it when I took it home, and you can see they're not very pointy, like they're really rounded, but the new growth is showing like really pointy ends. It's very pretty. And that's another really fast growing plant. I'm surprised by how quickly it's taken off. You keep going, Jennifer. We believe in you. You can do it, Jennifer. And here, wow. This is Hoya species species, Borneo Gunung. This is right up there with Hoya crassulapenniana, man. This is a beautiful plant. And if you put it in sunshine, the leaves will turn red, like real red. It's so beautiful. And I saw this in Stockholm, but it wasn't for sale anymore. Somebody had already scooped up all of the available cuttings by the time I got there, and I was very sad about it. So Ylva, this wonderful woman from Sweden, saw my video, my haul, and she saw that I really wanted this one but didn't get it. And so she proposed to send me a bunch of Hoya cuttings in the mail, and that's how I ended up with this one, and the Hoya lobii, and a couple others that I'll show you, but sadly most of those Hoyas didn't make it. On this shelf I have mostly cuttings from larger plants that I have, so I'll show you those larger plants. Here I have Hoya Thomsonii, white flower. That is such a cute plant. It's so fuzzy wuzzy, it's just adorable. It's like a little Kit Kat. I really like this Hoya. And, oh, it's finally putting out some new growth, and I have to be very careful not to touch that because I don't want to damage it. Camilla and Ylva sent me this cutting with all those other Hoya cuttings that I told you about. Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. A lot of people are really familiar with this one because it's not so rare. However, many people confuse this with Hoya carnosa rubra, or it's also known as Hoya carnosa Crimson Princess, which is this one. And you can see the difference, right? This is a variegated plant, and this is an albomarginated plant. And that means with variegation, you have white that appears in the center of the leaf, and the green appears on the outer edge of the leaf, whereas when a plant is albomarginated, albo meaning white, and margin meaning the outer edge of the leaf, you have white on the outside and green on the inside. The best way to tell these two apart, since they're often confused, is that the queen wears her white like a crown, and the princess wears her white like a gown. I don't remember, I think I saw that in a Hoya forum somewhere, and I just thought, oh, that's a really clever way to remember the difference between these two. Hoya Crimson Queen, Hoya Crimson Princess, or Hoya carnosa rubra. Here I have Hoya species Affinity Caudata. I also bought this in Stockholm. I was told that this grows a bit faster than Hoya caudata, but sure has proven me wrong. I haven't seen any new growth on this plant, which is very sad because I really like this one. It has these really thick leaves with these little speckles on them. I think it's beautiful, and the flowers look fuzzy. They're really adorable flowers. I'm waiting patiently for him to show me what he's about. I want to see some growth out of you. Here I have Hoya carnosa compacta. This is a plant that I bought, oh gosh, it was just when I started my YouTube channel. So it must have been 1 year ago, like August or September of last year. And it was about this big when I bought it, and it was really shriveled and dry. It was really like abused in the greenhouse, and I saved it, and it has put on all of this growth in the past year. That's a plant that you really just super easy to care for and takes a while to grow. Here I have some more cuttings. This is Hoya Sunrise, and this was sent to me by Camilla with the rest of the Hoya haul that didn't make it for the most part. This one almost died, and I had to do my best to root it in water. I was really worried I was going to lose it. This is another one that does really well in the sun. It develops beautiful pink leaves if you put it in enough sun. Here I have Hoya eriostema. This doesn't really give you an idea of how beautiful this plant is, but when it's fully grown and mature, it's a really gorgeous plant. I saw one at Rien Orchidée when I went and visited their greenhouse, and I fell in love with it, and I really wanted it, but it had already been sold. It was reserved for somebody else. So they sent me this in the mail, and it almost didn't make it. I had to put it in one of those terrarium bags that I do with like damp perlite on the bottom. If you want to see that technique, you can see it in, I think, my most previous Hoya my gosh video. Yeah, I'm happy that it pulled through. It's putting out some new growth here, and it developed a root system, so whew, I really hope that it pulls through. And it is growing. Back here I just have a ZZ raven leaf, which, like, you know, that's a really slow growing plant, so it could be like a year before I see anything coming out of there. And I have an epiphyllum Angulige back here. I have a Hoya lacunosa cutting, but I'm going to show you the mother plant, so let's not get into it. This is Hoya Patricia. If I recall correctly, I bought this, yes, I bought this from Toral News in, I'm sorry if I don't say her name correctly. I bought this from her in Stockholm, but unfortunately it's just not really showing me any new growth. It's just one little leaf, and there was stem and stuff, and it should be growing, but it's just taken a while. So maybe if I put it outside, it'll show some more promise. Here I have a Hoya Walliniana, another one that I bought during my Stockholm haul, and it's doing really well. And again, this is one that will turn pinkish if you put it in the sun. I've been keeping it in a jar with its friends, Dischidia or Dischidia, and this is Hoya species Affinity Bertonia variegata. Camilla pointed this out to me while I was going through all the little bags of Hoyas, and she said, this one's really cool, you should have it. And I said, you're right, I think I should. So I took it home. I like variegated plants really, so if it's variegated, I just can't help myself. And then this is the Dischidia, or Dischidia, I'm really sorry, I'm not sure. I've heard it pronounced both ways, Dischidia, Dischidia. Somebody said it's Dischidia or Dischidia. The fact of the matter is it's a really neat little plant, and it's related to Hoya, but it is not in the same genus. I bought this one in Stockholm from Toro as well. On the shelf I have Christmas cactus back here, my Hoya monstera that I just said Hoya monstera, didn't I? Loaded load! I think I need to eat lunch. This is my Hoya, oh my god, I just did it again! No, what is it called? I'm gonna try this again. This is my Monstera deliciosa. These are all the little African violets that I am really not on top of right now. I was supposed to deal with these a long time ago, but they just keep, let's just not, shh. This is Hoya calistophylla, and you can see it's not doing so well. I bought this as a plant from Variegated. You can see my haul concerning that if you wish to. You can see that this leaf is about to kick the bucket. As soon as you begin to see yellow on a leaf, that leaf is not going to make it. That is a sign of cell death, and basically that leaf is done. I bought this plant. I love this plant. Like when I took it out of the pot, I realized it had like all of this, like this huge vine, and it just wasn't developing roots really. And so I decided to cut the vine a little bit and try to propagate it in a terrarium bag, and that really didn't do much. It actually developed like 5 or 6 peduncles during that period, and I thought that was pretty cool. But as you can see, this just looks absolutely disgusting. It's not doing very well. It was a nightmare, it was a mess, and so I had to cut it because it rotted off, and now I'm trying to propagate it in water as a last ditch attempt to save this plant, and it is putting out like a couple of roots, but I really don't know if it's gonna make it. I'm doing my best with this one, but in the end I might just have to buy a new one. And back here I have a Hoya carnosa, good old traditional Hoya carnosa. Fast growing plant, great beginner Hoya, really easy to find, very, very common. It's got little speckles on its leaves. It's just a pretty cool plant. It's really neat, and yeah, classic Hoya there. Here beside the shelf I have my Hoya Australis, and the trellis itself is about 1.5 meters high. So as you can see, it's well beyond exceeding the trellis. This is like an unstoppable grower. This is the fastest growing Hoya that I have. The vines are like wrapping around one another, looking for something to climb on. I was keeping it in my bedroom, but in a place where only the top half of the plant was in the window and the bottom half of the plant was below the window, and it really wasn't getting enough light down here. So these leaves are looking pretty sad and sick. They're a little flimsy and floppy. And I realized, okay, I need to move it into a place where the entire plant can get plenty of light. It was a stupid decision on my part. And when I did it, I knew what I was doing. I was like, this is probably not gonna do so well here, but I might as well give it a shot. And then as soon as I began to see any sign of suffering, I was like, all right, you gotta go out into the living room, I guess. Over here, I have my Hoya Australis Lisa. And you can see when it puts out new growth, it's very pretty and pink. It's really gorgeous. This one gets a bit of morning sun. I do keep sheer curtains in my terrace doors. This one is growing really rapidly for a variegated plant. They usually grow a little bit slower because the white parts of the leaves, so the faded parts of the leaves, don't have as much chlorophyll in them, so it can't photosynthesize as well as fully green-leafed plants. And I bought this as a mature plant from Replant back in, I think, January of 2019. Been about 8 months, and it's just doing really, really well. It's one of my favorites. It's a beautiful plant. Over here below my Begonia amphioxus that I keep like the rose from Beauty and the Beast, I have my Hoya carnosa rubra, also known as Hoya crimson princess, like I talked about earlier, and it's doing super well. Look at this new growth. The new growth on these is also really pretty pink color. And it has this one vine actually. Back in my old apartment, it wasn't getting enough light. So this vine reverted back to completely green. So we have a Hoya carnosa growing here. And that's what will happen if your plant doesn't get enough light, because it needs enough light to be able to photosynthesize with just these green bits of the plant. And if it doesn't get enough light, it will revert back to a fully green state. And the problem here is that since this vine is bringing the most energy to the plant, because these leaves are fully green and can photosynthesize really efficiently, it's putting all of its energy into growing this one vine. It's not really growing too much in other areas of the plant comparatively. So what I'll probably do is chop this vine down below the last variegated leaf, and hopefully from that point on it will only develop a variegated vine from that point. But once you start to see the reversion, it will never go back. It will never produce another variegated leaf on this vine. So I'm gonna chop that off. And behind me I have some Hoyas that I keep in my terrace window on like a clothing rack that I found at IKEA. So I'll pull that out and show you those. Here I have a little Hoya Bella plant that I created with cuttings from my gigantic Hoya Bella plant, which I'll show you in a bit. I have a Hoya linearis here. I found this in a flower market in the center of Paris, and it was extraordinarily cheap. It was 15 euros. I know that this Hoya is really expensive in the US. I think a linearis of this length would be something like $80 to $100 in the US, because it's much more common here in Europe than it is in the US. Here I have David Kamingii. That's it's a nice Hoya. There's nothing extremely spectacular about it. It creates like a cluster of pink flowers, and it is I would say it's a prolific bloomer. It's bloomed 3 or 4 times for me since I bought it. I think I bought it last November or December. I found it at a flea market in Paris, and it's a really easy care Hoya. It's putting out new growth. It's doing really well. It doesn't ask much. It doesn't need to be watered a lot. Doug Chamberlain said that he had difficulty with his and he could never grow it in anything except hydroton, but I have it in my regular Hoya mixture and it's doing really well. Here I have Hoya lacunosa. This is really one of my favorite. I always say that about every single Hoya that I have. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. This is definitely one of my favorite Hoyas. Oh my god, this is like one of my top 3 favorite Hoyas. This is a really cool little plant. It has these beautiful rippled looking leaves, like they have little dimples in them, if you can get a good look at that. And it creates little fuzzy white blooms that are extremely pungent, and they smell really strongly of it's a really pretty floral smell in my opinion, and it gets really strong in the evening at about 7 p.m. And this one has bloomed 6 or 7 times. This is an unstoppable bloomer in my home. It's very, very happy here. And here is Hoya Mathilde, another really gorgeous and easy care Hoya. It has these cute little leaves. It's a mixture between Hoya carnosa and Hoya serpens. I've talked about it many times, like in maybe 2 or 3 of my videos I tell the story about this plant, and you can check those videos out if you're interested in that. It has some really pretty speckled leaves up here. This one has never bloomed for me, but I'm hoping that one day it will. I think I need to repot it. It's getting dry very, very quickly these days, so I think that it needs to be put in a larger pot. A lot of people talk about how Hoyas love to be root bound, whatever. You can feel that way if you want. I'm still studying this. I'm still trying to find solid evidence that causing stress like that to a plant will encourage it to bloom by keeping it extremely root bound. I hear it a lot in forums and I see it a lot on Facebook, and people leave comments like that on my videos, but I still haven't found solid evidence or like a study of any kind. I've only heard it through word of mouth that Hoyas like to be root bound, and my Hoyas are not root bound and they still bloom for me on regular occasion. Like I said, this has bloomed 6 or 7 times. This has bloomed 3 or 4 times since I bought it. My Hoya Bella is constantly in bloom this year, and it's not root bound at all. So, I don't know, it's arguable, it's debatable, but I personally love Hoyas for their foliage. I'm not really in this game for the flowers. So if I want my Hoya to grow more foliage, then I need to repot it. I need to put it in a bigger pot, because if the roots are bound, it's going to be producing less growth outside of the pot. It's going to be producing less leaves. So that is personally why I decide to repot my Hoyas when they become root bound. Okay, and there's one more left back here in the corner. I have my Hoya memoria that I told you about because I have all those cuttings from it. It's doing really well in this corner. It doesn't get any direct sun in the morning, but it gets a ton of bright light all throughout the day. And it's producing huge leaves. I was unaware that the leaves actually get this large because when I first bought it, it just had these little leaves. And all of the leaves that it's producing now are like the length of my hand. They're really big. And I'm really surprised and happy to see that. So that turned out to be a cooler Hoya than I thought. I didn't know that the leaves got so big. Here in my kitchen, I have my gigantic Hoya Bella plant. This is one of the first Hoyas I ever bought. I think the first one that I owned was the Hoya Carnosa rubra, the Crimson Princess, and then I bought this one. It was really tightly wound around a trellis when I found it, and I decided to untie it from the trellis since it's not a vining plant. It's a dangler, and I chose to let it dangle. And it seems much happier that way, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. You can see it has one bloom on it. Maybe I should have made this video a couple weeks ago because it had like 10 blooms dangling from it. You can see it has another one in the making here. It has a few others inside of the foliage. It's about 1 meter long, probably. It's a really long plant. I've always kept it in my kitchen. It is my kitchen buddy. And that's the last of my Hoyas to show you. I just want to thank you so much for watching. I really genuinely appreciate you guys. I love it when you leave comments, so please feel free to leave comments down below. I like to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see other videos about plants and plant care, or just me goofing off and like being weird and stuff, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you here. I just want to thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.